hope everyone is ready to hear about a lot of winter weather because we got a lot to discuss moving forward. We got multiple winter storms. One is ongoing right now. The lake effect snows. We'll get heavy with the details on that. To kickstart this video, the next topic will be the next winter storm risk, which will move in here in the next day or so and pretty much overspread a large area of the country throughout our entire weekend upcoming. And then we're watching another time frame for another winter storm risk, starting off in the plains and eventually moving into the eastern US. And we'll just round the video off just discussing this crazy pattern as we get into December. My name is Mitch. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there. I just want to say how thankful I am for all of y'all. You know, you guys have given me this platform to talk about what I love, which is the weather. So I'm forever grateful for that. Subscribe if you haven't. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please drop it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning on this Thanksgiving morning. And it is snowing across a lot of the Great Lakes region. What you see here is lake effect snow bands, and this is heavy, especially in the UP of Michigan, but also in lower Michigan. We got lake effect snow bands down here off Lake Erie, also between Buffalo and Erie, but Buffalo looks dry right now. We'll have to see how these lake effect snow bands pivot as we move throughout the next 24 to 48 hours. We got a pretty intense lake effect snow band popping off Lake Ontario into the Tuck Hill Plateau. All this was expected and is certainly ongoing right now. I do want to drop it down to the Mid-South. We do have some returns showing up on radar. So if you're tuning in from northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, Tennessee, surrounding states, let me know if you're seeing any flurries out there to kickstart your morning. The GFS was teasing at this over the last couple days, so I wouldn't be totally surprised whatsoever. Let's continue to move forward. I do want to discuss just over the next pretty much two and a half days. So this is the NAM, and we're going to kickstart this off with 1 p.m. Central Time. This is 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to keep this in motion here. And as we continue to move into this evening, we continue to have these intense lake effect snow bands and pretty much the same areas that are getting it right now this morning. And as we continue to move into overnight, into tomorrow morning, things will begin to calm down a little bit more and sort of the western lakes like Lake Michigan, Lake Superior, but we're still getting some intense lake effect snow bands off Lake Huron and still off Lake Superior in Michigan. It just looks to be tapering off. But look at these banding features. A little bit of a lake to lake connection ongoing in this area. We could start to get a little bit of snow in Buffalo, maybe as we're getting into tomorrow morning. But one thing I am watching as we start to move into, say, tomorrow evening, some of this lake effect snow could break containment, get a little bit further east, and we might actually get some snow into Massachusetts. It's been quiet in southern New England lately. Definitely been a quiet start to winter as far as winter weather. It's been cold, but no crazy early season winter weather. And some of these lake effect snow bands could actually stretch and kind of break containment, get all the way over to Albany, into the Berkshires, things like that. Even some flurries showing up late tomorrow night in Scranton. We'll see if anything can get to New York City. So we'll continue to figure this one out. Now, snowfall between now and the next 48 hours, this is just purely lake effect stuff. And, if you live in this red area right here, that's where over another foot of snow is possible. Marquette, 8 to 9 inches. So still a lot of snow on the way for these areas. And then we move down into lower Michigan. This is your additional snowfall totals expected. Detroit, maybe about an inch, half an inch. Grand Rapids, another inch or two. Kalamazoo, 2-3 inches of snow. The further southeast you get, southwest you get, I would say, in lower Michigan, we got more snow on the way for these areas with this winter storm on the way over the next couple of days. But Traverse City, another 5 to 6 inches of snow. But this area right here in northern lower Michigan get another 8 to 12 inches of snow. And we drop it down into Illinois, Indiana. Another inch or two of snow is possible in northern Indiana. Just let me know what you're seeing in all these areas. And then northern Ohio, Cleveland could get about a half a foot of snow between now and about 1 a.m. Saturday. So once you get up Interstate 90, of course, you get into these pockets here. This is where a lot more snow could fall, 8, 12 inches of snow. We continue to move forward and we look at PA here. The northwestern areas of the state, of course, is favored with the lake effect snows. Erie, another 5-6 inches of snow. St. Mary's, 3-4 inches. Pittsburgh, you get a tenth of an inch of snow, maybe just enough to put a slight dusting on the ground. But Jamestown, of course, getting rocked with almost 1.5 feet of snow expected between now and about 1 a.m. Saturday. We head on up here to Buffalo area and the Tuck Hill Plateau, etc. Rochester, 2 to 3 inches. Buffalo, only an inch, but just south of you guys. I think somebody put in the comments it's called the Southern Towns or the South Towns. south of Buffalo, you guys are going to get rocked with several inches to over 1.5 feet. Watertown, 7 to 8 inches of snow. Syracuse, 9 to 10 inches of snow. Kind of around the Finger Lakes area, maybe 1 to 2 inches of snow, but the Tug Hill Plateau in this reddish kind of area, this is where we could get over 1 foot of snow. So let's figure out this next winter storm. I do want to mention we got winter storm watches up for Montana, some winter weather advisory. The winter storm watches are in this teal color, that pink, that's winter storm warnings. So I do want to mention the storm does start off here in the Northern Rockies, but let's focus in on this area. These are winter storm watches stretching from areas of South Dakota down to even sections of Nebraska. For example, Omaha, you have winter storm watches. Des Moines, good chunk of Iowa. In fact, it looks like the entire state of Iowa, except some counties in the southwestern sections of the state, have winter storm watches. We even have winter storm watches as far south as St. Louis. So it's trended just more wintry for you guys with this next storm. Springfield, winter storm watches. Chicago, you're right in the middle of these winter storm watches. Up here to Milwaukee, also Madison, Janesville. And it does not get all the way up to Minneapolis. It stops south of you guys with Rochester, winter storm watches. So this is for the next storm on the way, and I do expect more winter storm watches to get issued, even including more sections of Indiana, lower Michigan over the next 24 hours or so. So I did just want to mention that. And we do have the NAM and range, and then we're going to have to switch to the Euro. So, I did put that poll up saying, which one do y'all prefer? Do y'all like this site or Weather Bell? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize this site in the shorter term. With these short range models, and then go back to Weather Bell when we're breaking out a little bit further out in time. I think that's the way I'm going to do things for now. But I hope you guys will like this. Hopefully you can see the town names pretty well. But we're going to start this off tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. This is Eastern time, so if you're in Central time, back it up an hour, right? All right, so as we move forward, we get all the way into tomorrow afternoon. It's going to start off with a pretty intense banding feature here. And it could be a mixture of rain and snow, but I do think this will be mainly snow. Sioux Falls down to Omaha, you could start to get a wintry mix. But then everything really blossoms as a low pressure develops to the south. We start to get into about 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow night. And this is when that heavy band could really set up. This is like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning. Let's just go on and take it all the way to daybreak. And here we are. I mean, this is 7, 8 o'clock Saturday morning. It's still snowing back here in Dakotas, Montana. Some snow could get as far south as Denver. A little bit of a dry slide here, but that is heavy wet snow in Omaha, Lincoln. How does it start though? Does it start off as snow in Omaha? Do you kind of go back and forth? For example, you see the pink right here. This is kind of a wintry mess. Des Moines, it's all snow, most of Iowa, but there is sort of a warm nose here generated off this low pressure. But we continue to move forward. Let's not get too lost in the details. Let's just kind of focus on the grand scheme of things here. 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, heavy snow moving into Milwaukee, Chicago, Madison. Look down here in St. Louis. It's a tricky setup here. St. Louis, for example, you start off maybe as a wintry mix, maybe briefly go to heavy, heavy wet snow. Who's ever on the southern edge of this precipitation field, yes, you will struggle with surface temperatures, but if you're on that cold side where it's just cold enough for snow, you could get, I always like to say on X and social media, flakes the size of bowling balls. Not literally, but those cotton ball flakes could be possible in this area. And this is around 6, 7 o'clock Saturday morning. And as we continue to move forward, and we'll go out as far as the NAM can take us, which is about midday Saturday. If you're a big fan of football and the snow, it's going to be rivalry weekend across, this area of the country. I think I said Big 10. I think it's the Big 12 now. But, you got Ohio State, Michigan playing, a lot of other teams too. We got a snowstorm moving in, so definitely tune in and hunker down, watch some good snow games. But this is a sizable winter storm moving across the Midwest, Chicago. This looks to be all snow. We're going to watch trends. And look at this kind of finger of snow here. This could be heavy. Indianapolis, even though it shows, green, this could be starting off as heavy, wet snow. So we kind of have to start off where we left off. I'm going to forget to mention different town names and stuff, guys. It's like I have to kind of go back and forth with states, but kind of starting off where we just left off with the NAM. This is the latest Euro. Actually, it is not, but we're about to get the latest Euro. Here we are. Not a whole lot has changed. We start to get to the middle of the night, Saturday night into Sunday. We got an all-out snowstorm raging across areas of Chicago, Milwaukee, Green Bay, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, Indianapolis. It's all snow. Starting to move into Detroit. All snow here. Toledo, snow. Still snowing back into Des Moines, Minneapolis, Janesville, Madison, Eau Claire, La Crosse, Peoria. There is a cutoff. It looks like it ends as rain in St. Louis, all rain for Kentucky, but I would watch northern Kentucky with this. I would watch Evansville, but it looks to be all rain on this specific run. Take it all the way out to Sunday morning, still snowing for just about all of Michigan, snow falling on top of snow, and then the system itself begins to move into the eastern U.S. and the Northeast. And just to look at this here as it moves in, this is getting into Sunday midday. We got a wintry mess, I think, for the favored cold air damming regions of West Virginia, Virginia, so that cold air gets trapped just east of the higher elevations of the Appalachian Mountains. And that happens in pretty much all the states you see here in the pink. That could be freezing rain, the orange, sleet, the blue is snow. Could start off as a heavy wintry mess Sunday morning across PA. And how cold would this system be in this area? I think low pressure kind of shoots across the Northeast, switches a lot of areas that might start out as winter weather Sunday to rain. But we'll fine tune the details for the Northeast as we move forward, and then the system is done. So the good news is we're in range of the National Weather Service forecast for about 75% of this storm, at least the areas it's going to go over. So let's start off with areas in Montana. You know I don't cover a lot of West, but I don't want to leave you guys completely hanging. But this is how much snow's forecast between now and about 5 a.m. Saturday. And then we drop it into, we'll go over to North Dakota. This is how much snow is expected in this area. Bismarck, 1 to 5, so a little bit of a range there. Then we drop it down into South Dakota. A lot more snow's forecast. Gettysburg, 4 to 6 inches. Brookings, 4 to 7. Sioux Falls, 4 to 8. And so several inches of snow in this area. And then we drop it down into areas of Nebraska. This is kind of a tricky zone. Omaha, anywhere from 3 to 8 inches of snow. Lincoln, 1 to 6. Could get an inch, could get a half a foot. Of course, the totals increase once you head down Interstate 80 into Iowa. But definitely eastern Nebraska could be in for a pretty high impact winter storm. But there is some question marks of mixing because of low pressure bringing in warm air that's going to be close by. Southern Minnesota, 1 to 5 inches of snow in the Minneapolis area, but you head on down the interstate into southern Minnesota. This is where you could get over a half a foot in these yellow areas. So a lot of snow is forecast for the southern areas of this state. And then the entire state of Iowa could get a lot of snow. Fort Dodge, 9 to 16 inches of snow is forecast. Des Moines, 5 to 12 is forecast between now and 6 p.m. Saturday. And just the entire state of Iowa looks to almost be good for at least 5 inches or more of snow, except the southwestern areas of the state. This is where you're going to have to deal with mixing issues with the low pressure really close, bringing a lot of warm air aloft, mixing things to rain or just kind of a wintry mix. Dubuque, 7 to 11, Davenport, 8 to 12. We drop it down to the Kansas City area and surrounding regions. Shows northern Missouri. It's a tricky spot also. A few to several inches of snow could fall. The more you get up Interstate 35, the more snow you could see. Kansas City itself, probably just a dusting to an inch at most. And all this could change. And then we get into the St. Louis area. This is a really tricky spot. 2 to 4 inches is what is expected as of right now in the St. Louis area. Could get a wintry mix too, maybe a little sleet, freezing rain. I'm not expecting much mixing with this storm though. It's kind of going to be a cutoff between rain or snow with a little bit of a wintry mix kind of embedded somewhere in between the transition zone. But, Quincy, 4 to 8 inches of snow. Just pause the screen if you need to. But St. Louis, of course, the highly populated area in this graphic, 2 to 4. And then we move deeper into Illinois. There's a lot to cover. Peoria, now 8 to 13 inches of snow. Bloomington, 6 to 11. Lincoln, 5 to 9. So a lot of snow in these areas, but you kind of dip it down into Effingham. Could be 1, could be 7 inches of snow. Huge range here. And then we get kind of right where, Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa all come together. Just a closer up look. Guys, I like to get it up close and personal with these graphics. Quad Cities, 8 to 14. Peoria, 8 to 12. Another graphic for you guys. Cedar Rapids, 9 to 16. And then we bump it up to the Eau Claire area, including Madison. Madison, 11 to 18 inches of snow is forecast. Eau Claire, 3 to 8. La Crosse, 7 to 14. Man, a lot. And then Milwaukee, 4 to 9 inches of snow is forecast as of now, but this only goes out to about 6 p.m. Saturday. I think it will still be snowing. So I don't think this is the entirety of the storm the further east you get. Janesville, 7 to 11. Madison, 6 to 10. And then we bump it down to Chicago. And this does pretty much include the entirety of the storm. This goes between now and 6 a.m. Sunday. Chicago, they're going with exact amounts, which I never like too much. 8 inches of snow is what's forecast in Chicago right now. Rockford 10, Pontiac 9, Bloomington 10 inches of snow. Man, this looks like a pure snowstorm for you guys. I'm excited for you folks. I'm jealous also in a healthy way, right? Northern Indiana, South Bend 11 to 17. This is probably a combination of no, it is. This is a combination between a little bit of snow that will fall probably today and what's on the way. But, Logansport 4 to 10, Marion 2 to 8, Fort Wayne 4 to 9, Benton Harbor into Michigan, Three Rivers, anywhere from a foot to a foot and a half of snow forecast, guys. And then we get into the other transition zone in Indiana. Could get a half an inch of snow in Indianapolis, or you could get a half a foot. Just crazy stuff. This is a tough area to forecast. Very, very difficult. So we'll leave it at that. And I do want to show you Kentucky, because I do think western, northern areas of Kentucky could be a wild card zone. You could start out as a little bit of snow. At some point in the storm might end as some snow. We got to watch it. And then just to show everybody else, okay, we're just not in range of the National Weather Service forecast for like Ohio points east. So we'll show you the 24-hour periods off the Euro Ensemble. This is what we're looking at. You're going to see the storm moving in. And you do see a few inch snowfall mean for northern Ohio, 4 to 5 inch snowfall mean for Detroit. This is outside the stuff you might get over the next 24 hours. And you can see the interior Northeast has a bit of a snowfall mean throughout this area. We just got to figure out the exact low pressure location of this as it moves over this area into Sunday into Monday. So it's going to be a little bit of a tricky one to figure out for the Northeast. And I do want to mention a little bit of an ice signal, because I do think we'll have a little bit of icing on the onset of this system as we are getting into the later portion of this weekend to early next week. So a few tenths of an inch of ice is possible. I think this will be enough to pump out some winter weather advisories, maybe even some winter storm warnings in some of these areas for a heavy mix of wintry precipitation in the favored areas of West Virginia, Western Maryland, and then getting into the higher elevations of PA, Virginia, even some icing as far south as the favored regions of North Carolina. Okay, got to pace myself talking a million miles per hour. Seems like I've already been talking for like 30 minutes, but I haven't. But the South Central U.S. So let's start off in the Southern Plains. This is for Sunday morning, and let's make sure we have the latest and greatest stuff here. Sunday morning, we got more energy dropping now. Cold air is coming in, and the latest Euro wants to bring some moderate to snow breaking out across Kansas, even the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. This is getting into Monday, and then we start to move into Monday evening. A little bit of light snow dropping down all the way into Oklahoma City, Norman, and it does show a wintry mix trending a little bit heavier in northern Arkansas, getting into the early morning hours of Tuesday of next week. A little bit of light snow even rolling across areas of Missouri, and then it heads on out. Okay, now what about the Euro for the rest of the eastern U.S. with this system for next week? And this isn't going to show the entirety of the time frame here. We can only go out 144 hours, but I did just want to show you the latest and greatest information. And we take it into Tuesday morning, and here it is. Low pressure is already cutting across Alabama. So this isn't going to be, a favorable setup for the I-95 corridor already, at least for the mid-Atlantic point south. But see this stripe of light, moderate snow breaking out across the Midwest. Could be snow falling on top of more snow. Breaking across the Ohio Valley. You can see the pink. That's a wintry mix here across those favored CAD regions. And yes, that is some heavy snow on the backside of this low, cold air crashing down into northern western Kentucky, even northwestern areas of Tennessee. Lighter stuff into Indiana, Illinois, Ohio. But then this thing gets juiced up, rams into more cold air, and we have an all-out winter storm that breaks out late Tuesday across the Ohio Valley, Kentucky, Ohio, areas of West Virginia, PA, areas of Western Maryland. And then look, we got a snowstorm breaking out Tuesday night across southern New England, mixing in Long Island, New York City. You're right on the fringe here, and this is as far out as we can go. And the final graphic goes all the way out into about midnight Tuesday night, and we have an all-out winter storm ongoing. If we look at the run from last night, not a whole lot different. It's actually colder on the latest run. So wild stuff. And we flip it back to the GFS, and it's a lot more aggressive in the early stages of this system. There's some winter weather. I think this will be enough to at least pump out some winter weather advisories across Kansas. Look, you got this band of heavier snow Monday afternoon across northern Missouri, snow dropping down in Oklahoma, a wintry mess developing into central and northern Arkansas. Heck, even freezing rain in the pink, sleet is the orange, and we could get just a flat out winter weather event into Arkansas, Western Tennessee as we're getting into Monday p.m. But of course, the GFS a little bit more aggressive for our friends here in the Southern Plains. And then we look at the GFS for the rest of the Eastern U.S. Same thing. GFS has this low pressure cutting across the deep south, but it shows just a beefier winter weather event. But I will tell you that the Euro has kind of ticked towards the GFS. The Euro was more suppressed, kind of coming more in line with a more beefed up system as far as precipitation is what I mean when I say beefed up. But we got icing in the pink, and this is heavy snow, even starting out as snow, maybe in DC, Baltimore. This is not a forecast, but with a 994 hanging off the coast of mid-Atlantic and southern New England, this could have a lot of precipitation with it. A lot of much needed rain down here for the southeast. I just don't think this will be a big winter weather event for the southeast. I think we need to watch areas of Tennessee and Kentucky. But man, that is a sizable winter storm. Some backside snow is possible as we're getting into Tuesday evening in the Cumberland Plateau and the mountains of Tennessee, North Carolina. So we'll watch for that. So, man, a lot of stuff to discuss, guys. And if we look at the Euro ensemble, and we can actually look at the latest one here, you're going to see the footprint of snow that drops down, and that stinks. We do not have the latest one, so we're going to have to switch it back to the OOZ. And you're going to watch. You're going to see that signal for the winter storm we broke down that's coming in this weekend for the Midwest. You're going to see that disappear. And here comes the signal for a quick inch and a half of snow across areas of really the Central Plains. Even a few tenths of an inch of snow showing up for areas of Oklahoma, and then that moves away. Okay, and then we look at the entirety of the Eastern U.S. with this, and that is the little bit of a signal off the Euro ensemble for a little bit of snow as we're getting into next week. And it's the footprint of snow on this system for next week is much further north compared to, say, the actual operational run, but it definitely gets beefed up as we're getting into Tuesday into Wednesday across the Northeast. That is a few inch ensemble average here across the Northeast, so that's a much heavier winter storm signal across southern New England and getting to Maine and everybody in New England. So, if we're looking at this ice signal, this is between now and about this weekend, but watch how it beefs up as we start to move into the time frame of interest next week. A few tenths of an inch of ice, even over a quarter inch of ice, is a signal showing up in these favored cold air damming regions. And I didn't have this up here, but I'll show it here on the fly. I do think it's worth watching a little bit of an ice signal in this area too, but it's not really supporting stuff like the GFS. So I think regardless, a lot of precipitation's on the way. This is the Euro ensemble with how much total precipitation could happen between now and the next 10 days. So a lot of much needed rain is on the way if you're on the warmer side of this, so that's good. But just to wrap all this up, guys, the pattern moving forward looks just like a big old question mark, okay? This big blue area over the eastern U.S. right now, this is our trough, dipping over the eastern U.S., bringing the cold air. It's cold now across a good chunk of the eastern U.S. This is swinging in, then this will swing out. And then you see this blob of blue here. This is our winter storm that's going to move across the Midwest and areas of the country. You see this area up here. This is our cold air feed into this lower pressure right here. So if we look at this, this is the storm system itself, and this can bring its own cold air also. This is the kind of the cold air feed into this system. Okay, now we move past this because we've already discussed that, and then we move into next week. Cold air feed is still up here. Okay, we still got cold air kind of dropping down into this area. And then you see this extension in blue right here. That is lower pressure. So we got some sort of storm system developing here. Now, this cold air press isn't pressing down enough to really suppress this storm system. It could trend to that, but this cold air feed right here, this big trough over Canada, piece of the polar vortex I would add, is feeding in this kind of nudge of lower pressure in the blue here. This is our system for next week. And then what happens after that? Who knows? There is a signal in the 7 to 10 day range of another trough digging down. You can see the extension here. I want to watch this. Could bring a blast of cold air as we're getting into next weekend. But man, really, there's no point in getting too far out here because we got a lot to figure out right in front of us. And what I will tell you is, if we look at the temperatures compared to average, the blues and the greens are colder temperatures. Let's just leave it at that. The warmer colors you see, the reds, oranges, yellows, etc., that's warmer than average temperatures, warmer temperatures. Not necessarily warm, but warmer than average. And we start off Saturday, we're hanging out with below average temperatures across the eastern U.S. with the lingering air mass, the cold front that's moved through. And then the next Arctic air drops down. Okay, this is getting into Monday. And look, I mean, it filters into the eastern U.S. We were thinking early next week was going to be a torch across the southeast. That's not the case anymore. Could have a warm day or two, but I wouldn't even say it's going to be warm. And then we get into late next week, and it just looks like cold air lingers around. Could have another warm up, and then there's another signal for a big cool down. But like I said, this is 10 days out. No point in getting lost in the sauce of the details of that. So just to wrap it up, what's the latest with the MJO that we're seeing? Let's click on this, see if we got any. Let's update this browser like we always do here, right? See if we got any new and improved information. And not really. So it doesn't matter. We're good to go. So let's discuss this again. And we'll discuss this in the most simplest way possible. This is the MJO, guys. This is 4, 5, and 6. These are warm phases. It's pretty much a warm dominated pattern across the lower 48. Can still get shots of cold air. I would say 8, 1, and 2 are your colder phases. 7 is a warm phase for certain areas and a cold phase for other areas. 3, sort of the same thing. But 6, 5, and 4, warmer phases. 8, 1, and 2, colder phases. Okay, where are we and where are we heading? All right, right now, what is it, the 27th? It's Thanksgiving. So technically, I believe we should be in phase 7 right now. We moved out of phase 6, so phase 7. All right, so honestly, everything we're seeing in the pattern as we go a week out, when we discuss the pattern that looks to be evolving, it pretty much it supports phase 7 perfectly almost. Okay, we got cold air dropping down, which supports a phase 7 MJO phase, which is what we're looking at, the MJO chart. But it's hard to beat down and fully get down into the southeast. That makes sense with phase 7. So where are we heading? Well, it looks like see this 1, see this 3. That's December 1, December the 3rd. So it looks like we're going to progress through phase 7 and then eventually kind of do a loop-de-loop. This loop-de-loop is showing up once again. So we get into a lower kind of amped phase here. Do a loop-de-loop, but it looks like somewhere around mid-month, which has been like this for 2 weeks now, we get into the golden phase for winter weather fans, phase 8. That continues to show up. So if you're a winter weather fan like me, cold weather fan, you hope that we continue to show this look, we progress into phase 8, and that we slow ride this through phase 8, 1, and 2 during the most favorable climo periods of winter, which is late December getting into January. And there is a real possibility we do that. Nothing has changed with that. So to wrap this up, I really think model guidance is going to continue to try to struggle to figure out the proper MJO phase that we're heading towards. And I think we're heading towards phase 8, which is going to support, I really think, what could be a wild back half of December. Going back over the last few weeks, I've been talking about December to remember. There's been a lot of back and forth with that. It's still on the table, guys. And honestly, we're already kickstarting December coming up with activity. Okay, we're ending November technically because this winter storm for the Midwest is in, November. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of changes. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. We will have another video tonight. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Appreciate y'all so much. So thankful for y'all. And you know what? I almost forgot, but I'm not going to forget. We do have a Bible devotion. I almost forgot about you, Jesus. I'm sorry. I'll never do that. But we're in 1 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 34. And this is going to be a simple one. And it says, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His faithful love endures forever. So it matches up perfect with the fact that it's Thanksgiving, right? So I've said, give thanks to the Lord in the good and the bad. He always is looking out for us, even when we aren't looking out for ourselves. Ain't that the truth? I can tell you one thing that I am forever grateful and thankful for is that we serve a God that has already factored in our mistakes, and let's be real, our stupidity, and our own earthly detours. He has already set in motion a way out for us. He is always trying to reroute us to align with his plan on our lives. He loves us that much. And I just want to finish it off with that. I am forever thankful for that, because we all know that our earthly desires is trying to pull us in a direction that's away from God's will. And that's why it's important to continuously just pray that he draws close to you and do what you need to do to set the stage for that, right? So appreciate y'all. God bless y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again tonight.